Hi, my name is Aaron Johnson, and I will be presenting over the art of Stan Douglas today. Stan Douglas was born in Vancouver in 1960. His hometown of Vancouver has also served as an inspiration for his research of other periods of history, which he often does his art over, and he likes to connect his art back to Vancouver oftentimes. He attended Emily Carr College of Art and Design, where he earned his Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in 1982. He's an incredibly intelligent artist who works with very complex meanings behind his art. He often likes to create what he calls a parallax of both vision and narrative. He said that he wants his viewers to be enveloped into a new story where they're experiencing not only just history but geography at the same time. There's so much more to his art than just face value. Many people have recognized his talent, which has led to him being featured in major exhibitions such as Wheel Centre d'Art Contemporain, Brooklyn Academy of Music, Haus der Kunst, the Fruit Market Plant, Documenta, and the Venice Biennale, which he was there 3 different times, among many other exhibits. He has also received many awards, such as the Hasselblad Foundation International Award in Photography, Scotia Bank Photography Award, ICP Infinity Award, honorary doctoral degree from Emily Carr University of Art and Design, Documenta Arnold Bode Prize, and the Gershon Iskowitz Prize, and then also a DEA-D scholarship, which he won for 2 years. The first piece of work that I'm going to be talking about is called The Secret Agent, and he did this over a book that's actually called The Secret Agent, which was the first literary depiction of terrorism, which was set back in the 19th century. And Douglas remembered the amount of terrorism that took place around when he was a little bit younger, around 10 in the 1970s, and he wanted to make a connection between the book and then the period that he had experienced himself. So he played a movie that depicted terrorism on 6 different screens. There are 3 screens on one wall, and on the other 3 screens were placed on a wall facing opposite each other. So there's this room full of screens from all angles, and then there were also speakers on each side of the screen, making up 8 total speakers, and there's this very realistic feeling of surround sound. It's very loud, and it's, again, playing from all angles. So, it also creates this complex dilemma because they're all playing different parts of the movie, which are showing different perspectives. And it puts the viewer in a situation where, they cannot focus on all 6 screens at once and everything that they're hearing. They can really only concentrate on one of the screens at a time. So these people are, very confused and overwhelmed, trying to get the most out of it when really they can only do so much. And that is really what Douglas is trying to achieve. It's almost like a learning experience in this work, because in real life you're missing a lot of information that could paint a more complete picture due to the fact that you can really only see from your own perspective. So there's a lot of times where you can't see from everyone else's eyes or point of view, so you're missing a lot of information, and he's trying to show that in real time, which could make a significant difference. The second example is called Circa 1948, which is really not a traditional form of art that we would typically think of, because it's an app actually, but it has so much detail, like meaning and history behind it. It's really crazy. I've never seen anything like it. It's an interactive app that is almost like a historical exhibit and a virtual reality simulation all in one, because Douglas created this app to recreate Hogan's Alley, which is this neighborhood in his hometown, but how it was in 1948. So when you're walking around with the app open, the app moves as if you're walking around Hogan's Alley in 1948. So you can see the buildings, what they look like in 1948. The atmosphere is all different, and it's obviously going to be different from how the world looks. So you kind of get that contrast in real time, and they get to see what has changed, what hasn't changed, and kind of see how things have been shaped and how they've come about today. He also has a lot of detail put into it that isn't really necessary but adds to that really realistic feel that makes you feel like you're there, such as leaves and dirt being on the ground, balls being left out. Um, it's really crazy the amount of detail that he goes into, and it feels so realistic. He also added many different recorded conversations that you can listen to while you visit certain parts of the neighborhood. And he makes it to where you're pretending that you're actually walking around in the neighborhood and like eavesdropping on these conversations. There's one example where you walk into this house and it's supposed to be like a prostitution house, and they're talking about how much they sell their girls for or what their girls are doing. Um, and it kind of gives you the insight of, this isn't a great neighborhood. It also, there are some conversations that are just talking about events that might have been going on at the time and really giving you a feel of what life was like in 1948 rather than just seeing it aesthetically. You're also kind of living it. And here is a video where Douglas explains it that's actually from the Art21 website itself.
Hogan's Alley was always thought to be a place of vice, a place of urban blight. And so City Council always had it on their eye for a place to demolish. Got a reputation as being a black neighborhood, even though it was a mixed black, Italian, Chinese neighborhood. But I got that reputation from all the black people who used to hang out here. I'm an artist, and history is one thing I use to make what I make. That white building is something called a Vice Chicken Shack, where a lot of jazz musicians used to go after playing downtown Vancouver. They weren't allowed to drink in the clubs where they played, so they'd come here to have chicken and to party.
Hey, Roy. How do, buddy? Yeah, you back in town. Just got back last night.
This is a piece of interactive storytelling you can download to your phone and actually play like a game. As best we could, we try to make a historically accurate representation based on public record. Here's the Italian bootlegger. Here was Chinese brothel.
How much you pay your girls?
I'm not hiring.
I make my work so I can see it. One major function of art is to allow us to see things we think we know in a different way. My first job after high school was as an usher. My second job after high school was as a DJ. I was the first guy to play hip hop in Vancouver. I came to art late in life. I was more interested in theater. I realized early on that in Vancouver, these TV shows were being made, these movies were being made. So I could use the apparatus of cinema and TV to make my work.
So there at the end, he was just kind of giving some insight into why he does videos and moving pictures and things of that nature rather than just stills. And for his third work, this is called Abbott and Cordova, which is a recreation of one of the most influential events in Vancouver's history, which is a riot that broke out at the intersection of Abbott Street and Cordova Street in 1971. Back in Vancouver in the 1960s and 70s, there were lots of hippies at the time, and they obviously stood for a lot of things that the government and authorities were trying to fight at the time, and they decided to have a festival, which the police were not okay with. So that led to this enormous riot breaking out at the intersection, and after that, there was a huge decline in the quality of people that lived in the neighborhood, quality of just the neighborhood itself, and there was a very large increase of crime after that. There are many pictures from this riot in history, but they're only showing a very small part of this enormous riot that is going on. So they do not end up giving full context or really painting the whole story of what is really happening. So Douglas's goal with this whole piece was to recreate this scene at the intersection and take a picture from a higher vantage point that kind of brings it all in together so you can see it all at once. So he actually had the streets shut down to have this picture taken so that he could redecorate the streets and the buildings to look how they did in the 1970s. He even had models that looked like some of the people from the old pictures, and they were dressed in the proper attire as well. And the final picture ends up being almost this like big collage in a way of all those old pictures put together to really paint the whole story and tell everything that's going on. Stan Douglas was the first person I reviewed for Film Friday, and he's still one of my favorites. He goes into so much detail, and he just inputs so much thought into his works. And I think he's a really incredible and intelligent artist who I would love to experience some of his work. I'm not a big art connoisseur or anything of that nature, but I do find his stuff very interesting, and I like to hear the meanings behind it and everything. So that's kind of why I did my presentation on him. I find it very impressive and very intriguing. So thank you.